be paying close attention to. It's called national conservatism. It's a far-right, isolationist, national ideological faction. This past week, national conservatism at the National Conservatism Conference, NatCon for short, it was held in D.C., and you can pick up a vibe from some of the names of the panels and the speeches, like, quote, the threat of Islamism in America, or the Bible and American renewal, or overturn Obergefell, which, of course, is the Supreme Court ruling that legalized same-sex marriage. And again, this was not a fringe event. These speeches did not happen in any shadows. The conference was attended by Republican members of Congress, officials from the Trump administration, and wealthy donors. One of the more notable speeches came from Eric Schmidt, who's the Republican senator from Missouri. His speech posed the question, quote, what is an American?
Are the sons and daughters of the Christian pilgrims that poured out from Europe's shores to baptize a new world in their ancient faith. America, in all its glory, is their gift to us, handed down across the generations. It belongs to us. It's our birthright. It's our heritage, our destiny. If America is everything and everyone, then it is nothing and no one at all. We've funneled in millions of foreign nationals to take the jobs, salaries, and futures that should belong to our own children.
My word. Just straight up saying all the quiet parts out loud. As the Associated Press writes, the conference, quote, underscored the movement's vision of an America rooted in limited immigration, Christian identity, and the preservation of what speakers called the nation's traditional culture, end quote. According to Senator Schmidt, and I remind you, this is a United States senator, America is a country by and for Christian Europeans. He decries immigration, though he conveniently enough leaves space for the 19th century German immigrants from whom he is descended. But he excludes non-white immigrants, both those who came here of their own accord and those who did not, like enslaved Americans, the ones whose labor literally built this country. As for Native Americans, he seemed to argue that the violence of colonization and pushing Native people out wasn't too bad because tribes also would go to war with each other. In a particularly chilling moment, Senator Schmidt made this declaration, quote, but America does not belong to them. It belongs to us. It is our home. It is a heritage entrusted to us by our ancestors. It is a way of life that is ours and only ours. And if we disappear, then America, too, will cease to exist, end quote. If we disappear. I cannot stress this point enough. This is not some random podcaster at a fringe conference. This is a sitting United States senator peddling unabashedly and unmistakably white supremacist language and ideology right out in the open. Keeps talking about they, by the way. I think I may have found the they. Joining me now is Nicole Hannah-Jones, reporter for the New York Times Magazine and the creator of the landmark cross-platform, the 1619 Project. She's also the founder of the Center for Journalism and Democracy at Howard University. I think you might be the they. Like when he keeps warning about the they who are trying to take our culture away, and I mean, you don't even respond. I was watching you in the camera when I was reading the stuff and running the quote. You're kind of all over. You're over this. You've seen this movie before.
Yeah, I mean, we are the they, Ali. Yeah. You, me. Yeah. And frankly, millions and millions of Americans. The truth of our history is just so inconvenient right now. And as I was listening to this, I'm actually appreciative, right? Because for years, Republicans have fought historical frameworks that taught with mounds of supporting evidence, including actual words of our founders themselves, that America was founded as a racist, white supremacist nation. I mean, this has been their critique of the 1619 Project and other texts like that they're asserting that, we were founded as a fundamentally white supremacist nation. So it's actually refreshing to see someone telling the truth, just to admit that this is what they think America was founded on and who they think America is for. It's also, of course, very ironic for him to claim the Pilgrims of 1620, but then say that his own family came here in Germany in the 1840s, and that somehow that makes him more of an American than me and my ancestors, knowing the first Africans came before the Pilgrims in 1619, and that by the time his ancestors arrived in 1840, most Black people here were born in America, because we had stopped importing Africans in 1808. So that somehow you could admit that you yourselves descend from immigrants who come when, what drew them to these shores was the wealth created by Black labor and the theft of land through indigenous genocide, and think that you can erase all of us from being America. Frankly, it's refreshing to see them just explicitly argue this now. Because we've known they use dog whistles for years to say this thing, and now they're feeling liberated to say it very clearly.
Right. I mean, normally when you hear a speech like that, it's because there was leaked audio from a conversation that wasn't supposed to be recorded. Like, this is actually televised. There's these movements in America, this blood and soil idea. There's the great replacement theory. He handled all of it in his speech. In fact, the speech was much longer than what we showed, but even in that little segment, he handled all of it, right? That this is our land. They are somehow infringing on it, although even you do the simple math and say that your ancestors were here before his were, but we don't get into that debate. But this replacement theory, if we lose, America is over.
If you're still using paper invoices, forget about it. Sign up with Household Pro now and
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a very dangerous theory, especially in this moment when we're seeing these mass deportations, when we're seeing Trump saying, next are going to be the homegrowns. It's this idea that it's not even just about who is being allowed to immigrate into our country now, but what is the very essence of who is an American, and therefore who should have the protections of the constitutions and full rights as citizens. Well, we've seen that America before. In fact, my father was born into that America, and that is an America with an entrenched racial caste system that is violently enforced. So I think, we can kind of shrug off it or laugh and say that this sounds ridiculous, but they're trying to control the way that we understand the history of this country so that they can control who has access to rights. It is actually chilling to hear a sitting senator say that this country does not belong to all these other people who are living in this country right now.
Right. You make an interesting point, both in the 1619 Project, but just generally, and that is the economy of this country was able to surpass that of many other economies because we had this free labor, basically. We had brought all these people in. America was able to advance very quickly right after the Revolutionary War. It didn't take long before it overtook the GDP of Great Britain. We're in that moment again where we're rounding people up and we're getting rid of them, and we're going to see this affect the economy once again. But that doesn't seem to work into their argument, right? That other people who maybe don't look like us and come from places that, meaning Eric Schmidt and where he comes from, are useful to us when they enrich us. And when we're done with that, we don't need you anymore. You're not actually part of us.
Yes. Again, we know very intimately as Black people that history, because what he doesn't talk about is in the 1600s, you start with European immigrants, and then they are very quickly overtaken by enslaved labor, because enslaved labor was cheaper and you could force people to work for free for life. So even the idea that, they cleared the wilderness. No, actually, enslaved people cleared the wilderness. Enslaved people built the railroad tracks across the South. They built the economic infrastructure often of this country. But this is why there is an effort to not just purge our ability to understand the truth, but for them to take the reins of museums, right? Of what monuments can go up, of how we teach history at our parks and in colleges and in high schools. Because if we understand the real history of this country, then that argument can't actually stand. But they're trying to legitimize only one race that should hold power in this country, that should be able to access full citizenship. We've seen this before, and I think we should all be very worried about that it's no longer, as you said, Ali, something that, they would say in a fringe closed meeting room. That very, I would recommend that your readers actually read that entire speech.
Yes.
I think it would tell you a lot about the vision for America right now.
Well, when I saw it on social media, I actually kind of assumed it was AI. I thought it couldn't be true. So I went to the original speech. I was like, oh my God, he actually said this out loud. And I'm angry at myself for being surprised, but I was a little bit surprised that we say this in public meetings now. But hey, that's the America we're in. Thank you, my friend, for all your amazing work. Thank you for giving us something to look at. For those who've not read your work, this is now the moment to read it so that you can have an educated discussion about what our history actually is. Nikole Hannah-Jones is a Pulitzer Prize winning reporter. She's the creator of the landmark 1619 Project.